President Joe Biden going viral for his latest campaign ad, which stars not the president, but instead one of his most vocal critics. Take a listen.
Joe Biden had the largest public investment in social infrastructure and environmental programs that is actually finishing what FDR started, that LBJ expanded on, and Joe Biden is attempting to complete programs to address education, medical care, urban problems, rural poverty, transportation, Medicare, Medicaid, labor unions, and he still is working on it.
So, of course, he slaps a "I'm Joe Biden and I approve this" message right on the end of that video. In just 24 hours, the ad featuring the voice of Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene got more than 35 million views on Twitter, making it one of the president's most viewed campaign ads to date. And joining us to talk about it is former White House press secretary and Republican strategist Sean Spicer. Sean, good to see you. The Biden campaign obviously extracted a 30-second portion of a larger speech from Greene here. What point was she trying to get across during that speech, and did it totally backfire?
No, I think, look, she made her point to the conservative base, which is that this president has been expanding government, not seen the likes since FDR. I think this president embraces that message. That's a message that resonates with his base. The irony of this whole thing is that it really shows how divided the country are in terms of what people think the role of the federal government is. Marjorie Taylor Greene was making the point that this is a bad thing. President Biden embraces that and says, yeah, I'm proud of what I've done, and my base will be excited too. But that really gets to the nut of where we are as a country.
Yeah, and I saw she quote tweeted this campaign ad, and she shared her own larger snippet accusing him of completing socialism, putting the country in $32 trillion in debt, promoting open borders. So she has somewhat responded here. Politics aside for just a moment, Sean, if that's even possible, as a strategist yourself, what were your thoughts on the ad? It's obviously gotten a ton of attention, but did you watch it and go, okay, that was smart?
Look, I think the idea of an ad is to get attention, right? The president needs to fire up his base. And if he says, look, even my most ardent opponents think that what I'm doing is what you appreciate, then that's smart. I mean, the idea is to get your base fired up. He needs to get people to get engaged in the process and acknowledge the things that he's done. And if he can point to somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene and say, listen, even somebody like she admits that I have been a champion of the far left progressive agenda that you all have been very supportive of, then that's a win for him. And look, the commercial clearly, as you point out, has gotten a ton of views. So yes, it worked. It was effective.
Yeah. How do you think other Republican lawmakers are viewing that ad right now?
Well, again, Marky, I think the point is that for those of us on the right, we look at the same ad and we go, that's the problem. So the issue isn't that this was taken out of context necessarily, but the idea is that there's two fundamental different views of what the role of government should be, and that divide continues to grow. So I look at that ad and say, okay, that's another reason I wouldn't vote for Joe Biden. Not that I needed any. And then I think, but for folks on the left, they go, good. I think that he's pursuing the agenda that we want. But it just gets to the fundamental difference about where Americans think government should be in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this could be a strategy we start to see more and more as the campaign season, kind of endures on here, candidates trying to use their critics' words against them? And does that work for voters?
So, again, when it comes to, as I said, I think this works for President Biden's base. I don't think a lot of people in the middle are going to look at the expansion of government as a big thing. But right now, the president needs to get young people fired up. He needs to get his base of progressives really fired up going into this. He's got to get people that want to put up yard signs, make phone calls, do the organizing that it takes. And he needs to do well in those early states and not get embarrassed by somebody like RFK. So I think it served a purpose. I always think that sometimes if you can use somebody's words against them or for your benefit, it's effective. But it's also the nuance matters. How you use it and how you execute it is always going to determine how effective it is.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly getting a lot of people talking, and us talking about it right here on NewsNation with you, Sean Spicer. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.